Hello, everyone. Mazel Tov here. Welcome to the discussion of the first chapter of the Ethical Slut. Just to jump right into it, there's not a whole lot to say about this chapter. It's mostly introductions, introducing the authors, who they are, telling us about them a little bit, and essentially what the goal of the book is. Most of my criticisms with the first chapter is mostly in terminology. Now, I did say that we were reading the second edition during the reading. However, that's incorrect. I lied. Or rather, I misread the title somehow. We're reading the third edition that was published in 2017. And so, although it is updated, it has updated language and other stuff, there are some things that are still a little bit outdated, especially compared to 2024 when I'm recording this. To start off, pansexual as a term has been widely criticized as doing sort of the opposite of what it intended to do. There's been a lot of discussion about it and discourse how bisexuality already included both trans and non-binary people. So to have a label that specifically seems to exclude those identities from bisexuality is kind of defeating the purpose of the label of pansexuality. So their usage of the term pansexual in this case is a little bit outdated. Now, at the time that it was published and written in 2017, pansexual was a much more widely accepted term, at least internally. However, now people, for the most part, tend to sort of just view pansexual and bisexual as the same thing. I prefer, in this sort of context, to just refer to it as like gender neutral or whatever, but that's not here nor there. It's just a little bit of terminology, as well as referring to one of their spouses as a bio guy. Just kind of old stuff that, you know, nowadays would not fly. I believe they also covered just a tiny bit of Alfred Kinsey, who is a figure, to say the least. I mean, much of what they do say is true. He accomplished a lot. He did a lot of stuff for sexual research in America. However, he has been criticized for a few things that if I were not to mention them, I would feel as if I was not giving a full context of his character. He fell into criticism primarily for two things that I want to mention. One of which is data regarding the sexuality in children, which some of that data was taken from adults recalling childhood incidences of sexuality. But it has to be noted that there is multiple data points, I believe, from just a cursory search of this sort of thing, where he used an interview with a pedophile in order to obtain that data regarding orgasms and sexuality in children. Now, I would not necessarily say this is the most ethical thing to do. Referring to someone who harmed children to get data points regarding them could produce inaccurate data So, something to think about. He has also come under fire for not referencing or interviewing a whole lot of black voices in his research. He goes over a lot of gay participants, but according to a little search, the prevalence of black interviews in his data is pretty lacking, although he does reference other black analysts, I believe is what they said. So something to mention about Alfred Kinsey. I mean, in the book, they do cover some of the stuff, such as having sex with colleagues, which can lead to highly unethical situations that can easily spiral out of control, but they sort of already talked about that. I don't need to talk about that here. That's about it. I mean, this chapter doesn't really explain a whole lot. It just sort of puts forward what we're expecting here from the book and what we might be looking for. I do appreciate that they are not presenting polyamory as like this superior version of love, which is something that has sort of happened in recent years when it comes to polyamorous people. There are a few of them that view polyamory as like this superior model of loving, which is just incorrect. It's just another model of loving. So we will be going through this book, and just keep that in mind, that this is not a book intended to convince you to be polyamory. It's a book that's intended to help you explore your sexuality in a healthy way. Additionally, I do want to note back on some terminology. So polyamory now gets shortened to poly. Pretty much very rarely. Mostly because that same shortened pronunciation is used for Polynesian peoples. So there are quite a few within polyamorous spheres, I guess we could say, of discussion that have opted to instead say polyam as a shortening version. Of course, there are still those that say poly, but just something to keep in mind. Not necessarily a correction, but just if you're going to be interacting with polyamorous people, you might get confused because the book refers to it as, oh, they just refer to themselves as poly, when that is not the case. Something to just keep in mind there. But that's pretty much it. That's all my thoughts here on this very first chapter. Like I said, there is not a whole lot to this. They just sort of define some stuff. I appreciate that they are outlining that they are trying to reclaim a lot of these terms that have been stigmatized over the years. I do want to note that these two women, I believe, these two people were socialized as white women. So while they do claim that they have a lot of they represent a lot of the diversity within sexuality, I do want to note that there's going to be some voices here that may be missing, notably voices regarding transgender, trans-feminine experiences, and gay experiences. So, something to keep in mind. It's also going to be missing some experiences from people of color. However, they do have a chapter here, I believe. Okay, it doesn't say so, but when I was looking over the book online, I did notice that they had included in this edition references to other sex-positive black authors and black activists. So there's that. They are referencing other voices at least. But just to keep in mind, there is going to be a lens in which they perceive things through based upon the fact that they are white. I'm pretty sure. Well, not pretty sure. I can search them up. Yeah. They are two white people. So there will be a certain lens that they will be viewing things through, which is not to say that it is bad or it is inferior, but just that it is a certain lens that will be interpreting things through in this book specifically, and that may alter the way things look for people of color. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. I am a trans woman of color, so I will not hesitate to give my opinion and voice on this entire book. I mean, that's what the point of this. So it's not like you're going to be missing a whole lot of perspective on this. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the reading. I hope that this explanation of the first chapter helps a little bit, clears up any confusion, and gets you ready for the next chapter that I will be reading next week. Thank you all. See you later.